Hi there, I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit and for the soul. And it's titled Cultivating Grace. I'm going to begin with a beautiful poem by that great farmer poet, wonderfully named too, Wendell Berry, always a farmer before he was a poet. This is Grace by Wendell Berry. The woods is shining this morning, red, gold and green. The leaves lie on the ground or fall or hang full of light in the air still. Perfect in its rise and in its fall, it takes the place it has been coming to forever. It has not hastened here or lagged. See how surely it has sought itself, its roots passing lordly through the earth. See how without confusion it is all that it is, and how flawless its grace is. Running or walking, the way is the same. Be still, be still. He moves your bones and the way is clear. In the sacred art of lovingkindness, Rami Shapiro wrote, "Cultivating grace is a bit of a paradox. You cannot get what you always and already have. There is nothing you can or need to do to merit grace. All you need do is accept grace. The reason this is so difficult for us is that our hands are full. We are burdened by carrying the past and the future around with us wherever we go, and have no room for grace or for the grace of the present moment. Cultivating grace means putting down the burden of time and opening our hands to the timeless now." It can be difficult to accept the giftedness of the life that we have. And this is often because we carry too many burdens of the past or the future around with us. Shapiro is suggesting that to cultivate the gifts of life, all we need to do is prepare ourselves for it, to open ourselves to it. Or to put it another way, to catch the winds of grace. Our task is to set our sails, to be blown by it. We just need to open our sails and to sail in the wind, to open, to be blown by it. The winds are always blowing. It's just that we can't always catch the wind. Now, there is often a good reason for this, usually fear caused from the past or perhaps for the future. We often prefer to batten down the hatches than embrace the wind. The wind, after all, cannot be tamed. The wind is a wild, ungovernable beast, as we've seen this week in Florida and other parts of the USA. Hurricane Milton has proved once again these last few days. As the wonderful hymn goes, life is the greatest gift of all. Something we don't always treasure, so treasure it and measure it. We don't always treasure it, I know. I certainly haven't in the past. Throughout our lives, many things happen over which we have little say. I don't believe that we choose, we draw what things happen to us. But what we do have a say in is how we respond to what happens to us and around us. To paraphrase Viktor Frankl, it is our greatest freedom. And perhaps our freedom to how we respond to life is the second gift, the second grace, following the gift of life itself. Maybe the freedom's the grace, and we're frightened to death of opening ourselves to this gift. I don't believe that life is predetermined, that life is mapped out before we're even here. That all things are inevitable, that all things will pass. I do have a strong sense of the lure of divine love. That if we take time in quietness, that we can connect to that divine aspect within ourselves and all of life. And that through doing so, we can make wise choices in life. That in doing so, we tap into this second gift, this second grace. But if we're too weighed down by things, it's very difficult to be open and to cultivate this grace, this giftedness, to make the right decisions, to follow that lure of divine love. But that lure is always calling. We just don't always hear it. We're not still enough to feel it, to connect to it, to be aware of it, to tap into that second grace, to cultivate this second grace. This week, I've been marking 21 years of continuous sobriety. I was offered the new gift all those years ago, having found myself in the darkest of dark holes. And I accepted this second gift, and I've continued to set my sails every day since. There has been the odd storm, but generally speaking, I have sailed in calmer waters, or at least I've been able to handle the waters I've sailed in. I accepted this second freedom and made the most of what I have been given. I have cultivated this grace, and I have shared it with many others. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Grace. Grace is one of those interesting theological terms that is understood actually in a variety, like every theological term, people interpret these things. The most common form is what is known as common grace. In the Christian tradition, this is the grace that is given to each person by God, whether they are believers or not. That said, it's not a word that's owned by every tradition. There are many, many varied meanings of grace. Other meanings might include grace is a kind of movement, an elegant and refined movement. You can be seen as moving gracefully, like a swan or a ballerina. Think of Swan Lake. Another form of grace would be a talent or a gift bestowed upon someone. A grace, a free gift that they're just born with. Think of Mozart or someone like that. A grace could be a condition of being favoured by someone, or a person can behave gracefully, can act in good grace or disgrace, actually, the opposite, disgracefully. A person can be given a grace period, or their payment, a free period before they have to pay without interest. There's the grace note in music, which is like an extravagant extra that can be played if the performer is so inclined to indulge in so doing, but it's not essential. But it's like an added bonus, really. A grace could be a prayer offered before a meal, or you could call someone your grace, someone on a high office, and you can honour someone with grace. And there are other and varied understandings, and in many other religious traditions they see it different to the common grace in the Christian tradition. Other traditions understand grace in different ways. So it's important to understand that when a person speaks of grace, they may not be meaning the same thing, much like other theological terms too. Now for me, when I speak of grace, what do I mean? Well, when I think of grace or living in grace, it's about openness, really, about being open and responding to life, to everything in a generous way, in a generous spirit. That's living by grace. It's a gift offered freely from yourself to someone or to life itself. It's a response from our own heart. And I believe that's the ultimate freedom. The ultimate gift that we're given, this second freedom that can be cultivated. Although to truly cultivate this, we must not be weighed down by whatever burdens we have in life. Because if we're too weighed down, we will struggle to respond to anything or to listen to anyone, even our own hearts and souls. We can't cultivate that grace when we're distracted or weighed down. In such a state, we will be unable to truly cultivate our grace. We fall from grace, I guess, in that sense. We need to be open to accept the gifts that are freely open to us. All the graces that come with living life itself. So many things are offered, but that we're not always open to. Paul Brunton, in The Gift of Grace, Awakening to Its Presence, defined grace as the manifestation of God's friendliness. I like this. That said, I want to extend it to the friendliness in everything. Now for me, God is at the heart of everything. I believe in a kind of pan-en-theism, not to be confused with pantheism. Pan-en-theism, that God is at the heart of everything. God is in everything and everything is in God. But not that everything is God. Different to pantheism. Pan-en-theism. And this friendliness, to engage with this friendliness, to bring it to life, to manifest it in our lives, we need to be open to it. And to manifest it, to bring it to life, I believe, is the ultimate freedom. That's how we cultivate grace. You can enjoy the gift, enjoy the grace of life each and every day. All we have to be is open enough to receive the gift. For the gift is always there. It's freely given. It's just that sometimes we're not open to it. We're closed off from it. Our fists are tight. We're tight and uptight, if you like. Fallen from grace, really. Friedrich Buchner, in Beyond Words, said the following: after centuries of handling and mishandling, most religious words have become so short-worn, nobody's much interested anymore. Not so with grace. For some reason, mysteriously, even derivatives like gracious and graceful still have some of the bloom left. It's one of the few theological terms that have not gone. Grace is something you can never get. You can only be given. It's a gift. There's no way to earn it or deserve it or to bring it about any more than you can deserve the taste of raspberries and cream or earn good looks or bring about your own birth. A good sleep is grace, and so are good dreams. Most tears are grace. The smell of rain is grace. Loving you is grace. Loving somebody is grace. Have you ever tried to love somebody? A crucial eccentricity of the Christian faith is the assertion that people are saved by grace. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you have to do. The grace of God means something like this. Here is your life. You might never have been, but you are, because the party wouldn't have been complete without you. Here is the world. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. Don't be afraid. I am with you. Nothing can ever separate us. It's for you I created the universe. I love you. Beautiful way of words there by Friedrich Buchner. But there's a catch. Like any gift, The gift of grace can be yours only if you reach out and take it. Maybe being able to reach out and take it is a gift too. Yeah. Buchner had such a beautiful way with words. So as I understand it, the key is to be open to both the giving and the receiving. That this is our ultimate freedom. This is our ultimate grace. This is how we cultivate grace, how we bring it to life. And what often stops us is a sense that we don't deserve this life, that there is something wrong with us, that we live with this sense of shame. And it's shame that keeps us locked in and closed down. We become weighed down and closed off to the grace of life, and thus we are unable to respond in graceful ways. Louis B. Smedes in Shame and Grace, Healing the Shame We Don't Deserve, said the following: shame is heavy, grace is light. Shame and grace are the two counter forces in the human spirit. Shame depresses, grace lifts. Shame is like gravity, a psychic force that pulls us down. Grace is like levitation, a spiritual force that defies gravity. If our spiritual experience does not lighten our life, we are not experiencing grace. He's right, isn't he? It is shame that holds us back, that closes us in. It doesn't have to be like that. If we could only recognise that gift that is within us, what Mark Nepo has called the timeless spots of grace. Nepo wrote, each person is born with an unencumbered spot, free of expectation and regret, free of ambition and embarrassment, free of fear and worry, an umbilical spot of grace where we were first touched by God. It is this spot of grace that issues peace. Psychologists call this spot the psyche. Theologians call it the soul. Jung calls it the seat of unconscious. Hindu masters call it Atman. Buddhists call it Dharma. Rilke calls it inwardness. Sufis call it Kalb. And Jesus calls it the centre of our love. To know this spot of inwardness is to know who we are, not by service markers or identity, not by where we work or what we wear or how we like to be addressed, but by feeling our place in relation to the infinite and by inhabiting it. This is a hard, lifelong task, for the nature of becoming is a constant filming over where we begin, while the nature of being is a constant erosion of what is not essential. Each of us lives in the midst of this ongoing tension, growing tarnished or covered over, only to be worn back by this incorruptible spot of grace at our core. Lovely, isn't it? It's always there, at our core, at the heart of us. Life is the greatest gift. Life is the greatest gift of all. Life is the greatest gift of all, for better or for worse. We don't get to choose what happens. I don't believe that. Our freedom, our greatest gift, our second grace, if you like, is how we respond to what happens. Don't get me wrong, we can lead ourselves into trouble, but I don't think we choose the life that happens to us. But how we respond is our real freedom, our real second grace. And it is this that we can cultivate. How we respond to life, how we respond to others, and of course how we respond to ourselves. It's our greatest freedom, our second grace, and we need to remain open and not weighed down to catch the wind of grace as it blows. And this requires us to pay attention. Simone Weil saw attention as a contemplative practice, a practice through which we reap life's deepest rewards. And maybe that's how we cultivate grace. She saw attention as the rarest form of generosity. It is through attention that we open up to grace. Attention, as she saw it, is something way beyond the mere will. We can't just force it, which she saw actually as quite graceless, lacking grace. For veal, attention is an opening, like prayer really, an opening that is full of grace. So maybe that's where we begin. We begin with attention. Maybe this is how we prepare ourselves. Maybe this is how we cultivate grace, by being awake, by being attentive, by paying attention. And attention is how we accept the giftedness of life. For the winds of grace are always blowing all around us. We don't get to choose what happens to us, but we do have the freedom in how we respond if we're paying attention, if we're awake. This is our ultimate freedom. This is our second grace. This is the gift we're given. And if we activate this, then we cultivate grace. We cultivate grace by paying attention. And in so doing, we get to bless each other. We get to bless this world. And in return, it will bless us. So I'm going to end with some words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more, and we can all bless. And we bless by giving ourselves wholeheartedly to life. So here's a little blessing by Rebecca Ann Parker called Choose to Bless the World. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with justice, or withhold love. You must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will and moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an absence of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anaesthesion, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavour shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, and the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, there is another possibility, waiting. May we recognise the grace present in our lives, and may we carry this grace with us. May we cultivate this grace, our ultimate freedom, may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, and in all that we do. Amen. Thank you.